Hello and welcome back to the another episode of Daily News Quiz Analysis for IAS Prelims 2025. It is 27th March today, and in this video we are going to solve some important questions which are very much relevant for your preparation. But before we will start our discussion, I would like to give the brief introduction about this initiative so that if you are new to our channel, you will get more connected with us. Basically in this video, we are going to discuss three types of questions, and these questions would be taken from three different sources. So depending on it, the first set of questions which we are going to discuss here would be taken from the current affairs. What we will do, we will take up the most important article from the newspapers. We will try to break that article down into the simplest language possible, and we will try to derive the possible prelims question from that particular article, so that it will give you the idea how exactly a question can be asked from these relevant topics in the newspapers, and what should be your approach when you are reading these news articles, and it will give you the idea which article is important for your preparation. This is what we are going to do in the first phase of our discussion. After solving questions with respect to current affairs, we will shift our approach to the second part. Here we will discuss questions from the static portion. You know, Currently we are discussing Indian polity, and in Indian polity we are discussing the Parliament of India, and in Parliament of India we are discussing the Raj Sabha. So today we are going to discuss few more concepts related to Raj Sabha and try to derive the possible prelims question from those particular concepts, so that it will give the exact idea how exactly a question can be asked with respect to these discrete topics which seem very discrete to you, how exactly a question can be asked with respect to these topics in the exam, and it will prepare you well for that. So after solving questions with respect to current affairs and the static part, we will shift our approach to the last part of our discussion, where we will solve previous year questions. Few previous year questions. To me this is the most important part, because in here we learn what is the vocabulary used by UPSC, what are the different words they try to follow, they try to use for framing your papers. We'll try to understand the language of the UPSC. We'll try to understand the different trends they try to follow for framing your papers. And at the same time, we'll try to understand different methods which we can implement in the exam. Suppose if we don't have the proper knowledge of the question or those questions, how we can still solve those questions by different elimination methods. We will try to understand that, and at the same time we'll try to understand how we can implement this knowledge in the upcoming exam. So this is in nutshell what we are going to do in this video, and this is exactly what we do in every video. So with this, I would like to request you guys, please do subscribe the channel, do share it with your friends so that they may also get benefited from this initiative if you are getting benefited, and please do write in the comments what else should we bring for you guys. With this, let's have a look at the question which we had brought today. As here you can see, the question is basically about the electric vehicles in India. Question is about electric vehicles in India, and if we will see more precisely, the question is asking us about the why there is low penetration of electric vehicles in India. This is the exact question what it wants us to know, and that we will see what the question says. The question what it talks, which what it wants us from, why there is low penetration of electric vehicles in India. So with respect to this, there was a discussion in the news article about that context. We'll go after solving this question. First, we will try to solve the question and we will sort out this question. Then we'll go to the context why we had brought this question here. So let's solve the question first. As you can see, the question says which of the following factors significantly contribute to the relative low penetration of electric vehicles in India. So these factors given in here, if ever such questions are asked in the exam, please remember this thing. If ever such questions are asked in the exam, maybe they will ask you about the application of some AI, or something, reasons given in here. Most of the times, application based related to science and tech, mostly related to science and tech, when there are questions which are application based, most of the times, please remember that if you don't have the proper answer to that question and you would want to apply that, most of the times all the options given below would be correct option. It is more 70 to 80% times the correct answer would be 70 to 80% times the correct answer would be all of the above. So with respect to this question, let's solve the question here. The first statement says, inadequate charging infrastructure, is it the bottleneck to the penetration of electric vehicles in India? 100% correct. That is one of the issue. There are inadequate charging infrastructure in India. Because of this, there is a mileage anxiety within the drivers of electric vehicles. They have this anxiety. What would be the mileage of their cars? What if the charge of the battery ends somewhere suddenly? What will they do? Because there is no such adequate charging infrastructure in our country. So this is one of the issue which was also highlighted in the news article. So 100% it is correct. Second statement, high initial purchase costs of EVs, 100% correct. Because of the high initial purchase costs of EVs, it is also one of the bottleneck to the penetration of electric vehicles in India. So this statement is also true. Third statement, limited domestic manufacturing of key EV components such as batteries, 100%. There is very limited domestic manufacturing of batteries. In fact, we are highly import dependent on it. When we are import dependent on it, definitely it increases the manufacturing cost of the car eventually. So it becomes it becomes costlier with respect to other internal combustion engine IC engines which we have. Conventional vehicles, it becomes costlier than them. So that becomes a hindrance for many customers to buy such cars. So third statement is also correct. Fourth statement, reliance on electricity generations that is heavily dependent on fossil fuels. What we right now, the world is going for the we are going against the global warming. We want to go against it. We want to cool this world down. But at the same time, what we are dependent on for the generation of electricity, we are highly dependent on the fossil fuels. So this is also a kind of an hindrance to the penetration of electric vehicles in our country. So fourth statement is also true. So with respect to these questions, all the four statements are correct, and the code and the answer would be option D. So with this, I hope you had understood the question. Now, what was the context of the question? The context is what the question was there. It was exactly how the question we had brought in here. Same was in the news article. Basically, news article discussed there should be more electric cars in India. And the government has brought in the policies like FAME 1, we had FAME 2, and government is thinking of FAME 3. Similarly, at the same time, many reforms had been brought in. Earlier the GST, what was 12% on EV vehicles, it has been reduced to 5%, and also the tax benefits which the customers get under the electric vehicles, that is up to 1.5 lakh rupees. So there are huge government is trying its best to bring in this electric vehicles, but still the penetration of electric vehicles is less as compared to what it is in China. So, and the reasons what are highlighted by the author here are: the first, cost of the cars compared to the ICE is higher. The conventional cars which we had, the cost of these electric vehicles is very high. Another thing which was highlighted, range anxiety, no sufficient charging centers, as we had highlighted in this question also. Also, then we discussed about the limited domestic manufacturing. We discussed it as we are import dependent over these components. And also, the government has brought in different schemes. Under PLI scheme, government tried to cope up with these issues, but still the penetration is low. But government is trying its best, and we hope that the future would be more electric. So with this, I hope you had understood the question as well as the context of the question. Now with this, let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, here the question is basically about the Jal Kranti Abhiyan. To be more precise, this scheme was not mentioned in the news article today. But why we brought this question, why we brought this scheme here, we'll discuss that. First, we will solve the question here, and then we will get to that. Here the question says, the Jal Kranti Abhiyan launched by the government of India aims to promote water conservation and sustainable water management. 100% correct. It aims to promote water conservation and sustainable water management. In this context, consider the following statements. First statement, it focuses exclusively on increasing irrigation potential in arid regions. Though it is very much universal to the country, so the first statement is incorrect. We can eliminate option A and option C. it would be better for us to look at the fourth statement, then only we will come to the correct answer. The fourth statement, it promotes the use of advanced technologies for our groundwater recharge, 100% correct. Nothing wrong with the statement. So by automatically the correct answer would be option D with respect to this question. But still we will have a look at the second and third statement. The second statement says it emphasizes the involvement of local communities in water resource management. This is exactly why we brought this question here. Actually there was a news article, there was discussion in the newspaper which talked about the role of communities in the water conservation. What should be the role of communities in the water conservation. The communities should be involved, panchayats should be involved, local peoples should be involved. There should be more, there should be policing should be done in this way, so that then only we can achieve what we want to achieve under our conservation schemes. This is the most important thing which we need to consider when we are framing any policies, that whether these local communities should also be involved in not only in the participation but also in the decision making. So this is exactly why we had discussed this question. Second statement is also true. Third statement, it aims to revitalize traditional water bodies and systems. Nothing wrong with this statement. So with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 3, 2, 3 and 4. With this, I hope you had understood the question as well as the context of the question. Now with this, let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, here the question is basically about the Article 105 of the Indian Constitution. Why we brought this question? Because the High Court had agreed with the engineer Rashid to attend the meetings of the parliament. So that is why it became important for us. About engineer Rashid, he is the MP in the Jammu and Kashmir, and he is right now under trial. He is not yet convicted but under trial. So he is in jail. So with respect to this, we know that if any person is convicted and he is granted 2 years imprisonment or or more, then he would be barred from contesting elections until 6 years. We know he won't be allowed to enter into the parliament with this record for, or at least for 6 years. So we know about it under Representation of People's Act. But here is the case of the engineer Rashid. He is the MP from Jammu and Kashmir, and he is right now, he's not convicted but he is in jail. So with respect to this person, he was elected in 2024's Lok Sabha elections as member of the parliament. Now, as he is in jail, it is his right under Article 105, it is his right to attend the meetings of the parliament. But right now he is in jail, so what he should do? For that, he has to consult the courts. It is not very much automatically available to him if he is in jail that he would be allowed to enter into the parliament. It is not so. He has to take the permission of the courts, and finally courts had given him permission to take the meetings of the parliament, to enter the parliament. So that's why this article is important here. So let's solve the question now. The question says, with reference to Article 105 of the Indian Constitution, which of the following statements is our correct? First statement, it grants freedom of speech in Parliament subject to the rules and standing orders of the Parliament, 100% correct. Second, provides immunity to members of the Parliament from any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by them in Parliament or any committee thereof, 100% correct. Third statement, it extends to the privileges of MPs to the President of India, totally incorrect. It does not extend to the President. Fourth statement, it allows Parliament to define the powers, privileges and immunities of its members and committees, 100% correct. So with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 1, statement 2 and statement 3. So this would be the correct answer, and let's suppose it is the option A. So with this, I hope you had understood the question as well as the context of the question. Now with this, let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, here the question is basically about the Public Accounts Committee. Why it is in news? Because it is this Public Accounts Committee is reviewing the GST framework. It has seeked the comprehensive review of the GST framework, given, and also had given certain recommendations regarding that, because the GST, as it was good and it should have been good and simple tax, but it has been it has been very, very difficult to follow, because there are various complications under GST. There are various burdens under GST. For example, compliance burden within the GST. So there are various issues with respect to it. So with respect to those burdens, the Public Accounts Committee has recommended few changes. So that's why it is in news, and it has Public Accounts Committee has seeking comprehensive review of the GST framework. So that's why it is in news. But here, uh, uh, you know, as we understood, it is with goods and goods and services tax, GST. We understood why it is in news. But here, let's solve the question and get the idea. Question says, regarding the Public Accounts Committee of the Indian Parliament, consider the following statement. First statement, the chairman of the PSC is appointed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Let's keep it here. It examines the annual audit of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. 100% correct. Ministers are members of the PSC. No, it is incorrect. Ministers are not members of the PSC. So statement A is correct, statement B is correct, and option D is correct, because ministers are excluded from the Public Accounts Committee. So directly the correct answer would be option C, that is 1, 3, and 4. This is how you solve the question. With respect to the first statement, the chairman of the PSC is appointed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. 100% correct. Second statement is true. Fourth statement, it can directly order the recovery of funds in case of financial irregularities. No, it cannot order for the recovery of the funds. So this statement, it's advisory in nature, but it cannot order for the recovery of the funds. So with respect to this question, sorry, the correct answer would be option 2 and option 2 is correct. Option 1 and 2 only. This would be the correct answer. Option 1 and 2 only. As third option is incorrect. Ministers are not the members of the PSC. It cannot directly order the recovery of the funds, but it has the advisory role. Third and fourth options are incorrect. Third option is incorrect. Fourth option is incorrect. Third is incorrect, yeah. And we are left with option 1 and 2 only. That would be the correct answer. So I hope I did not confuse you here. Let's resolve it. First statement, the chairman of the PSC is appointed by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. 100% correct. So first statement is true. Second statement, it examines the annual audit reports of the Comptroller and the Auditor General of India. True. Second statement is also true. Third statement, ministers are members of the PSC. Third statement is incorrect. Fourth statement, it can directly order the recovery of funds in cases of the financial irregularities. This is also incorrect, because it has an advisory approach. So with respect to this question, what are the correct statements? Correct statements are statement 1 and statement 2 only. And from the code given below, the correct code would be option A. With this, I hope you had understood the question as well as the context of the question. What was the context? Because the context was it is going to seek the comprehensive review of the goods and services tax, the GST tax framework. So that's why it is in news. With this, let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought there. Well, this is the last question from the current affairs part. Let's see what question we had brought there. It is this report. Let's see. Question says, consider the following statements regarding the United States Commission on International Religion Freedom report. United States Commission on the International Religion Freedoms report. Why it is in news? Because it has in a way criticized our PM and our government. That is least important to us, but this organization itself is important for us. So let's solve the question. First statement, United States Commission on International Religious Reforms is an independent, bipartisan U.S. federal government commission. 100% correct. It is a U.S. federal government commission, not UN federal, not UN government, UN commission. So remember that. Second statement, its primary mandate is to monitor and report on religious freedom violations globally. 100% correct. Third, its recommendations are legally binding on US government. No, it is not legally binding, but advisory. Its recommendations are advisory. So the third statement is incorrect. So with respect to this question, the correct statements are statement 1 and statement 2 only. With this, let's move to the another slide and see what question we had brought from the static portion. As right now you know that we are discussing the powers of the Rajya Sabha, and today we are going to discuss few federal powers of the Rajya Sabha, which are very much important for you students to know what are these federal powers. And this we will understand through this question. Here we will get the gist of those federal powers, but when we will reach to the federal system of our country, we will discuss those articles in detail, and you will understand those articles in detail. But here you will understand the gist of those federal powers. Let's see the question. The question says the Rajya Sabha possesses certain exclusive powers within the Indian federal structure. 100% correct. Which of the following statements accurately reflect these special powers? First statement: it can authorize Parliament to make laws on subjects in the state list. 100% correct. It can authorize Parliament to make laws on subjects in the state list. And the article which would be responsible for that would be Article 249. Please just remember that. Right now you need to remember that. And what should be the what should be the majority of what should be the how this resolution would be passed. It should be passed by the majority of not less than 2/3 of its members. Of its total members, no, it is not the total members, but 2/3 of the members present and voting. So please remember that. And voting, these terms make your exams, these terms decide whether you are going to qualify or not. Trust me, these are the questions which decide. Exactly, you have the knowledge, but you miss these important points. What UPSC will play with, UPSC will say present 2/3 majority, it would be there, but they will give it would be total majority, and you will just look at the 2/3, you would mark it correct. That would be incorrect. So please remember this thing. Whenever you are reading these questions, whenever you are going through these notes, do emphasize on these points. These are very important for you. So first statement is correct. It can authorize Parliament to make laws on subjects in the state list. Second statement: it can create new all India service. 100% correct. Nothing wrong with the statement. Third statement: has the power to introduce and pass money bill. Totally incorrect. We are discussing this from money seasons now. It can amend the constitution by simple majority. No, the special majority is needed for that. Special majority. So please remember that. So this is also, these two statements are incorrect. So with this, what is the correct answer to this question? The correct answer would be option A, that is statement 1 and statement 2 only. With this, I hope you had understood this part also. Now let's move to the last part of our discussion, where we will solve a previous year question. As you know, currently we are discussing the world geography, and the question which was asked in 2007 is: which of the following cities is nearest to the equator? As highlighted here, it is Singapore, only 200 kilometers away from the equator. So the correct answer to this question would be option D. With this, we had completed our today's discussion. I hope you would have liked the video. I hope you would share it with your friends, and I definitely hope you would subscribe the channel. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.